Passionate about music.
Now, the reason we're playing that is because of a new book called Ride A White Swan. It's all about the life and death of Marc Bolan, and we have the writer of said book, our favourite as well, Lesley-Ann Jones, is here. Welcome to
studio.
Author, journalist.
Oh, you too kind.
Well, I would say...
I'm going to say, can I say rock chick? Can I throw that in there as well?
Aging rock chick.
No, we're not having that. Have you seen the film Almost Famous?
Yeah, Cameron
Your
Crowe's
life is like that.
It kind of is. Yeah, he's in the book, actually. There's a picture of Cameron because his best mate, Neil Preston, took this photo with Marc bearing his breast.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, I know. And there's a picture of that very interview in Los Angeles in '73 with Cameron, the teenaged interviewer, the teenage werewolf interviewer, interviewing Marc and Neil taking the picture. So it's funny you should mention that.
Well, I tell you what, one day Harvey Weinstein is going to make a film of your life because you have hung out, you've interviewed, you've been very close to some of the most fascinating characters in the world of show business.
Yeah, last time we spoke to you was about your Freddie Mercury book, which I loved. I couldn't put down. And this as well, once again, you've done it again.
You were so nice to me on Freddie. I tell you, your support made such a difference. And it's always a question of finding a subject that you really want to get your teeth into. So I get asked to write a lot of different books, actually, and most of them I say no to, because how do you spend a year of your life with that person? But when my editor said Marc Bolan, I went, yes. You know, there's a big hook to hang it on. 2 big anniversaries. It would have been his 65th birthday this in the next 2 weeks, and it's the 35th anniversary of his death. Can you believe?
No.
Where did that go?
I know. So for anybody that doesn't know, just put, in a very sort of short précis, who was Marc Bolan?
Marc Bolan was a North Londoner. He was born in Stoke Newington in 1947, which was a vintage year for rock and roll. David Bowie was born that year. Brian May was born that year, and a whole host of others. He had the star bug, really. American rock and roll was beginning to flood our shores in the early 50s, and he just got the bug, and he was going to be a rock and roll star.
And just to put it into context now, in terms of fame, how famous was he in comparison to maybe somebody today?
Well, he was outselling Jimi Hendrix and The Who at that time. Wow. He was shifting 100,000 singles a day, and he accounted for, as T-Rex, 6% of the total output of music in Britain.
Oh my goodness, that's phenomenal.
It'd be unheard of now to shift that many units a day.
Yeah. But in terms of fame, and we're sort of like talking sort of One Direction, that kind of fame, I mean, they've broken America.
Bigger than that.
Bigger.
Bob Harris said to me that actually people don't realise T-Rex were, for their moment, they were the new Beatles.
Yeah.
And T-Rextasy, they called it, which was Beatlemania, the next generation on. Marc couldn't even go outside the door. It was dangerous. There would be fields of young women with pairs of scissors trying to cut locks of his hair.
That's horrible!
And actually it was dangerous. You know, they risked their lives every time they went out.
Was he gay or was he bisexual? Or,
he was everything.
Yeah.
He had relationships with men. He married a woman. He then went on to have another relationship with Gloria Jones, the singer who made Tainted Love a massive hit in the 60s, long before Mark Armand in Soft Cell recorded it. She was a very famous singer in America.
In the book, I was looking here, page 104, he kind of prophesied his own passing, didn't he?
Oh, that was a shock, when he was talking to Simon Napier Bell.
Simon Napier Bell's was his manager, who's also a gay guy, isn't he?
Simon was a debonair man about town. He'd have relationships with all kinds as well, but he declared himself to be a gay man. And in fact, they did have a relationship. I had a bit of a fight with Simon recently, because in the press release, we said his manager and his lover, and Simon called up and he said, I wasn't his lover, we just had sex. So I said, well, he said, why didn't you put shag? I said, actually, you can't really put shag in a press release. I said, we thought lover was being quite sort of discreet and elegant, Simon. Oh, no, he didn't like that. We had to change it. I know, but they did have a relationship. But they were having a joke one day, and Simon said he was going to be a big star. And he said, the thing you've got to do is die young. And you're going to have to do it in a white Rolls Royce. And Marc turned around and he said, no. He said, yeah, dying young, I agree with that, and I will die young. He said, but it has to be in a Mini.
Oh my God.
And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a coincidence? There's a really weird thing. You've got your James Deans, you've got people like Marc Bolan, and you've got other situations. Why does this happen to these people?
You know, live fast, die young, leave a beautiful corpse. It's a classic sort of Hollywood line, isn't it? But I think there's a bit of a death wish goes on.
I think so.
I think actually they don't want to grow older. There's something rather glamorous about having a tragic death, and it does secure you superstardom and immortality.
It's really strange. There's so many people that have died
preserved
like that.
at that age for all time. The rest of us just grow old.
How dare you! How dare you!
Has there ever been a movie about Marc's life? Because I mean, it's a classic rock star story, isn't it?
My editor, when she read this, she called me up and she said it's very filmic.
Yeah.
You know, I can't see why somebody hasn't done this.
Writing
before.
that down, filmic.
Filmic. It's a good word, isn't it?
Filmic.
I know. But it does lend itself very well because it's got everything. It's that rock star story with everything. Freddie's was similar, but Freddie lived longer. He was middle-aged. He was more settled in his life, wasn't he, with Jim Hutton by the end? And that would have sort of just dwindled. It was tragic what happened to Freddie Mercury, but I think what happened to Marc was more tragic because I think there was a lot more Marc to come. Yeah. Yes, his career was a bit in decline at that time, but I think he would have gone again. And various people like his plugger, Anya Wilson, who also plugged David Bowie and went to Canada and became hugely famous with Johnny Cash, she said to me, he was on the up again. He would have made it in America. As it was, they only had one top 10 hit in the States, which was Get It On. They called it Bang It Gong there because Get It On was a little bit suggestive in America in those times. But, he would have banged some more gongs, I think, don't you?
Yes, definitely.
Can we ask you a little bit about you and your career? Because you sound as though you've just kind of like had the most amazing life.
You know, I look back on it sometimes and I think, how, when, who, what? I'm still alive, and you couldn't make it up, really. I've been tremendously lucky. I think I got into writing about rock stars at a time when there weren't too many hangers-on. There weren't the agents and the managers and the publicists and the pluggers. And you went along to interview a rock star. If they liked you and you got on, you'd be invited on the tour. You'd fly in the plane with them. You'd get in the limo with them. You'd have dinner with them. Stay in the same hotel, not the same room. But you'd actually develop a relationship with these people. I went on tour with McCartney. I've interviewed Bowie several times. In fact, I slept in his bed. It gets better. He had a house in Mystique. And my friend Maria Lexton, who was the books editor at Time Out, her mate Felix Dennis ended up buying that house from David. So David was sharing this house out to anybody who wanted to come down. It was when I was researching the very first Freddie Mercury book, come down, have the house for 6 weeks. So we go down to Mystique and I'm pinching myself and Mia's there with me, my eldest. She was 8 at the time. She said, it doesn't get better than this, Mummy. Here we are sleeping in David Bowie's bed. The only thing missing was him.
David Bowie! You've got so close to these stars, like we said earlier, nobody else could get near. You couldn't do what you did with Freddie Mercury or Blondie or anyone else you've met with people like Lady Gaga, could you?
It's a different generation. Yeah. I'm older than them now. I mean, Lady Gaga...
She wouldn't let you...
She's the age of one of my children. Yeah. It was a moment in time when it worked like that, and it doesn't work like that anymore. And actually, I think it's a shame.
It is a shame, because you got to see a side of people. I mean, I love the story in your last book about Freddie Mercury, about you trimmed Freddie Mercury's moustache, didn't you? How many people?
Wasn't all we trimmed, dear.
Oh my God!
Oh no! TMI.
The rulers came out that night. Oh yes, they did.
I wasn't ready for that.
There's no mistaking a pube either.
Oh God! I didn't think it would take this turn, but it really
especially between the teeth, lovey.
I told you he was a rock chick, didn't I?
You are a rock chick, but I bet you that when you were in his company, you had the best fun with Freddie. I bet he was just like he was off screen, on screen. Was he like that?
He was a low-key guy. He didn't go to the opening of a toilet seat like so many of them do. He didn't like premieres. He didn't like parties. He liked just to hang out with his friends. He could be utterly outrageous behind closed doors, but he wasn't going to go out there and behave badly in public. He was very elegant, and I always rather liked that about him.
Who is your next book? Who's going to be the next subject that's going to fascinate and infiltrate your mind?
It's the big question. It takes a long time to work out. I've turned down, I think I said to you, more books, more subjects than I actually say yes to, because to live with a subject for a year of your life, you've got to really want to know about them and you've got to care. I'm not saying I don't care about anybody, but so far, that magic one hasn't come up. And we'll all sit around the board table at Hardia and everyone will throw their oar in. And we haven't all had that yes moment yet, but it'll come because it always does, as it did with Marc.
And when you've lived...
You'll be the second to know.
When you've lived, as you say you have done with somebody like Marc Bolan for the last year, do you feel like you know him?
Oh yeah, I absolutely love Marc, and I wish I'd known him during his lifetime. I was that bit too young to have been involved in his life, but what an amazing character. He just had this deep need to express his creativity in whatever way. Coming from nothing, his dad was a lorry driver, his mum worked on a stall in Berwick Street Market. Where does that genius come from? You sit down in your room, you start writing poems, and then the poems become lyrics, and then you pick up a guitar and you're 9 years old and you start to put your poems to music. That comes from somewhere. You know, I wonder if we'll ever know where from.
The book is called Ride a White Swan, The Lives and Death of Marc Bolan. Lesley-Ann Jones, thank you very much for talking to Gaydar.
Oh, thank you for having me. And for those who haven't, please be patient.
Passionate about music.